Welcome to The Crunch with Crib. I'm Jess, and each episode I'll be talking with some of WA's best real estate agents and business people to find out what makes them tick and what lessons they've learned on their journey to success. This week on The Crunch, we chat to Stef Dobro, director of the recently launched White House Property Partners, about what pushed her to go out on her own, the challenges of being a new business owner, and why her support network is so important to her. Stef, welcome to The Crunch.
Thank you for having me.
You're so welcome, and thank you so much for your time. I know it's a very busy time for you in the lead up to Christmas, so I appreciate it. Now, I wanted to kick off with, I guess, a little bit of your history of how you ended up in property, because that's what I love to know about, and I know yours is quite an interesting story. So.
Yeah. So my background is actually in political science. I did a couple of degrees, Bachelor of Arts and a Master's degree, and then moved to Australia and
Canadian, is that
Canadian?
Correct?
Yeah. So Canadian, and actually always loved old houses. My grandmother had a house that my great-grandfather had built, a heritage house, obviously, and ended up looking for a property when I had moved here and fell in love with the idea of it. But I had all these degrees and I just felt it was important that I put them to use. So I did that first and then got into property investing and got very excited about that. And, of course, the growth that happened in the early 2000s. Mm-hmm. I did 10 years at the Parliament, and then I worked in working for the Vice-Chancellor at one of the universities as his strategic advisor for a couple of years. And then I just decided that because people could make money through shares and portfolio growth, that I would just simply become an investor. Mm-hmm. And that was fantastic until the crash hit. And I had taken a lot of I had done some borrowings to invest in the share market and was doing my research, and then sort of lost it all and felt like I had made a very bad decision. I'd bought my third investment property, which I think settled the day that the crash sort of happened. Yeah. And so after a couple of years, a year off really, I decided that I should start finding ways to make money again. Mm-hmm. And redeem myself, and so in the family. And so I ended up starting off with doing some photography work for one of the companies, and then ended up doing some business reviews, and then ended up taking with Cape Horn Young, and ended up sitting in on their sales meetings and listening to what was involved in listing and selling and dealing with buyers, and decided that this was something that I was quite keen to try. They had asked me to do some recruitment, and they have a fantastic selling system. And I decided as I approached my 40th birthday that it was something that would be best if I put it to the test. Mm-hmm. So I decided that I would become an agent and try the system and see if it worked. And if you followed a process, very structured process, and worked really hard, could you achieve, success? Mm-hmm. And I did.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's quite a different. I mean, I look at policy and that kind of thing as a fairly not slower pace, but, very structured. And so it's interesting to hear how you kind of went from that into sales, which is...
Well, I was on the East Fremantle Council for 4.5 years. Part of that time as head of town planning committee and deputy mayor. And I felt that I couldn't influence people in the same way talking about housing choices when it wasn't dealing with money. Whereas I felt like if I went into selling, I would have a greater ability to influence their decisions. So if they were looking at knocking over a heritage house, I knew that the value of the new property in that particular location was going to fail, that they were going to lose money. But when you're sitting in a sort of government position, you can't say you shouldn't do it because you're not going to make money. You've got to, that's not why you're saying it. Mm-hmm. Whereas when I came at it from the other angle, as an agent, I could tell people, it's not actually going to be in your financial interest to knock that house over. We would be better to find you a property that's either got less intrinsic value or is, a vacant block. And so, and I'm a bit of a go-getter, and I did find the pace of government and all of that too slow for me.
Yeah, tedious.
Yeah, and also I'm self-motivated, so being held back by all sorts of obstacles, I found like it was kind of, you're dying internally for me personally. And so, this was a real opportunity to, especially with the, from the financial side, it was a real opportunity to have the potential opportunity to be rewarded for how much effort you put in. Because when you work in institutions like the Parliament, it doesn't matter how hard you work. You're working for a different reward.
Yes.
But in this instance, I decided I had done my community service, and that I could serve the community in a different way.
Another way.
Yeah.
So I want to, we obviously want to chat to you about your incredible new business and your new brand, but I quickly want to touch on the sales side that you were just talking about, because obviously you're a great agent, and I'm sure people want to hear about your process and that advisory, I guess, capacity that you mentioned that you put yourself in. Is that something is that how you kind of approach your clients and your sales still?
Absolutely. And I think that's part of why I've been very successful, is that when you're providing information, for example, to members of Parliament or in any advisory capacity, people have a lot of trust in you. They don't take the time to do the research themselves. And so you have to understand what their outcome is that they're looking for and find the evidence to be able to help them make decisions, because they're going to read a very short paper, which is a summary of everything that you found out about a subject matter, and take advice on it. And so, and one of the things that was very critical to being a research officer with committees in the Parliament was asking the right questions and obtaining information in a very respectful way to be able to advise people. And so when I'm working with clients, what I absolutely love is finding out what is it that's motivating them, where do they want to get to, what's happening in their life, and how can I help them get there. And I guess that involves being very honest and not telling them what they want to hear, but giving them the information and building that trust relationship with them so that they can be guided by you and know that you're acting in their best interest.
Yeah. It's such an important part of an agent's job, especially as, as the way that we operate changes and everything becomes digital, and being that trusted advisor and consultant is so important to being a real estate agent, I guess. It is.
And I think you have to, for me, it's really important to stay in my integrity in respect of that, where, when I don't know what a property is worth, I will tell the owners, I don't know what your property's worth. They say, we want 135. I say, I'm not sure if you can get it, but this is where I think it is. And if we follow this process, and I lose business sometimes because I do that, but I know I go to bed at night confident that the advice I've given them is truthful. Yeah. And I think that that's really important. And I think that, there's a ripple effect from that. Yeah.
Absolutely. So going from, I guess, talking about your values and how you operate, and we mentioned your amazing new brand. Yeah. Congratulations on an incredible couple of months.
Thank you.
As White House Property Partners.
Yeah.
So I guess I wanted to start with here what made you want to go out on your own and start your own new venture?
Yeah, thank you for asking. It's a good question to ask, because I think, as people know, I was incredibly loyal to Cape on Young, the brand that I come from, and had a great 10 years, almost 10 years there. And I think what happened as I approached my 50th birthday, which was a couple of months ago, I think just like I did when I was turning 40, I think you start to reassess where you're at in life and what you want going forward. And for me, obviously, in my 40s, that sales was, exponential personal growth. And when I was looking at, as a mother of now 2 grown children, both girls, I thought, what do I want the next decade to look like? Because, I'm probably going to work for another 10 years. And do I want to keep selling only? Or do I actually want to run a business? And I think that I decided that I wanted the opportunity when I was in my 20s. I very much wanted to have my own business, but didn't have the contacts or knowledge and courage to do so. So I think it is something that was always in my blood. I didn't go into sales to become a salesperson, really. I went in to test a theory and a process, which I did, and I loved, and I do love selling. But I think personal growth is a very big part of who I am, and I think that I really wanted the opportunity to try running a business. And I also wanted for my girls to know that it's, sometimes you have to really step out of your comfort zone. It would have been so much easier for me to stay there. I loved working there. I loved the people there. And but I just felt like if I'd waited and didn't do it, would I always look back and go, I could have, I should have? What would it have been like if I did? And if I did it and it didn't go well, at least there'd be learnings in it. So it took a huge amount of courage to do.
Yes.
But I'm happy I've done it for me and also for other women. I think not that it's a male-female thing, but I think often women think they need to be more than they actually need to be to give it a go. And that, there's a lot of fear around that from both men and women. But if you want to have a go, that's where the magic happens.
Yeah.
It's outside your comfort zone. That's what I'd always told my girls. And so I felt like I had to,
walk the
stand.
walk.
Yeah, exactly.
It's funny you say, you wanted to start a business in your 20s, and it's that dichotomy of people who start a business in their 20s and they don't know any better. They don't have anything to lose. And then so doing it a little bit later in your career, you almost need more courage because you've already got this established successful thing going on and you have to risk it to...
Absolutely. And everybody's watching you. The more successful you are, the more people are waiting to see what's going to happen. Is she going to fail?
Well, in Australia, they probably, that's one of the questions, isn't it? I wanted to ask about the brand, the White House, and the reasoning behind that.
It's funny. It was very hard to come up with a name, and I really struggled with it. But I've always loved the colour white. Now, I know white's probably not even a colour, but I just love the clean freshness. And I think for me it was a new beginning. And I think when people are looking to move, it's often, it's paint everything white. And I just wanted to be light and bright and white. And then I live in a white weatherboard cottage. My partner's just built a white weatherboard cottage and ended up finding a house that got painted white, a beautiful heritage cottage. And I'd said to my coach, there's this White House, and she said, White House, that's it. And I was like, yeah, I think so. And it took a little while to come up with it, but the more I thought about it, it was so aligned to me. And, a few people said, oh, it's very American, but it's a beautiful White House in Australia. It's in a White House in Santorini. It's a White House anywhere. Yeah. And for me, with my politics background, advising and negotiating, that's what you do when you're in politics. And the White House, as an institution, is somewhere where people go, advise, negotiate, and make decisions. And I think that what our role is as salespeople is about advising and negotiating, helping people make decisions. So, and then I happen to be housed in a beautiful white heritage house. So it felt like it all came together.
All aligned.
Yeah, and people have, the feedback I've had is that it's very me. And I think that came down to the actual branding that helped steer it away from that American experience or thought process. But I think one of the beautiful things about setting up your own business is how it can be a reflection of you.
100%. Yeah.
And that people had told me, oh, you'll get this amazing feeling. And, I was very doubtful because I was so scared. But I'm really happy with it.
Beautiful. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So tell me, when it comes to setting up your own business, was it ever a consideration to find someone to, did you look at other people to join you, or was it always something that you really wanted to do on your own?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think because I'd already been in a business with other partners in the company, I think I really wanted to go on my own. I did look at franchise options in terms of what does one get with a franchise, probably only because they approached me rather than because that was something, because I'm very much boutique oriented. But after I resigned, once it became public, I had a lot of people calling me about joining them. And I felt like I really just needed to do it on my own and to do it my way. And I even talked with a friend about doing something interstate, and I think it was just we both came to the view that it was best to do it on my own. And I'm actually very happy with the outcome, and I've got an incredibly supportive partner who knows a lot about business. And so that's made it much, much easier. And I think surrounding yourself with people who support you makes it much easier. I've got a network of agents who we share information with, and I think because I've had an experience of being part of a network, which is an amazing network, the Real Estate Results Network, I think that even here in Perth, there are agents who don't compete with us, who everybody needs support. And I think it's very easy to support people if you open the door, and people are really appreciative. So I think having those alliances and friendships and support networks, for me, was a better choice than actually going into partnership
having a
with
business partner.
Yeah,
fair enough. Tell me, you mentioned walking the walk for your daughters. I'm interested to hear, first couple of months in business, what are some of your biggest lessons that you've learned, or, things that came up that you've had to reach out to your network to ask for advice? What are some of those?
I guess I'm very lucky because I've got a business manager who has set up a business previously. She's young and very hardworking. She's very aligned with who I am and what I want. And so that's made it so much easier for me. I think my choices would have been different if I didn't have someone like that perhaps around me. Some of the biggest learnings probably really relate to cash flow and how important it is to make strategic decisions about where your limited funds go when you're getting started, and what do you really need. And I was very lucky because this house that my business is housed in is a beautiful heritage house. So we just got some IKEA desks and chairs and a whiteboard.
Easy to jazz it up.
Exactly. And it feels beautiful even without having spent a lot of money yet. You'd love to get, I don't have a proper board table yet or anything like that, but clients...
Small business goals.
It is, yeah, exactly. But people come in and there's sort of a humility and sort of a humbleness about where we're at, and that doesn't change the level of service that I give you or that you're going to receive or the skill set that we have. And I think that it's good to not, for me personally, to not overdo it and just to keep it real, really. And so my partner's been a bit behind that because he's very much about watch cash flow.
He's watching the money.
Yeah, he is. And that's really important because I think for a lot of agents, and this is, I think, one of the biggest lessons for agents to take on earlier, and that's why I'd encourage any agent to do their license and triennial certificate, is really about learning about how important money is. And that, in the industry we talk all the time about GCI or about the dollar value of properties sold. Nobody talks about what you're taking home. Nobody teaches agents how to manage their rep expense account or the employees, when to bring people on. And I think that that's part of it. Like, I'm letterbox dropping, putting pointer boards out. I haven't brought on more people than I can afford to bring on right now, even though I'd rather not be putting out the pointer boards. But also, as the mother of two daughters, I'm very lucky because they have quite a keen interest in the business. One of them in particular, they're both studying commerce at uni at the moment, and one has just finished her sales registration.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, which is really lovely.
Yeah.
And she's getting a bit of training from Sophia, my business manager, in terms of the admin side as well. So I'll have some cover there.
That's exciting.
So it's lovely.
Yeah.
It's, a lot of real estate agencies are family businesses, and I think there's a good reason for that, because the demands are so high, but the potential rewards are also high.
Yeah.
And I think I think family members often understand that, there's give and take, that you have to do sometimes jobs that you don't want to do in order to have what other people
rewards.
Don't have.
Yeah, and they've watched you grow up, and they've grown up watching what it takes. So yeah. I'm interested as well to hear, starting a new business means you get to essentially create a business culture that that reflects you and exactly what you want. So what do you, I guess with Sophia, and if you look to hire, what are you looking for in team members, and what's the culture that you're trying to build there?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because culture is so important, and it's something that is caught, it's not taught. So it's really about, I think for me, what everybody wants in a real estate business or agent, or probably any company, is a good human being. And I'm strongly of the view that good things happen to people who do good things, people who are good. I'm looking for people who are hard workers, who are committed, sort of like to play hard, after they work hard as well. So I'm always quite interested in what people want to do in their off time, how important is family or travel or exercise, those kind of things, because I want people to be in an environment where they get to be a whole person. And I think for the start of my career, because getting off the ground in real estate is so hard, it was all about just becoming textbook successful. But what I learned so that was in the first 5 years, and then the second 5 years was really about what it means to feel successful as a human being. And so I'm looking for people who want to have that all-roundedness and personal growth, who want to be part of a team, but whose values also are aligned in terms of doing the right thing, integrity over shortcuts that'll get you instant reward. Very much people who are looking to play the long game as well, because that's what I think it is.
Yeah. And I imagine, you've got an incredible reputation. You're a great mentor. I imagine you've got some people knocking on the door. Are you looking to grow the team and bring new reps on? Or are you just...
Yeah. So, yes, I think short answer is yes, I will. But I do think, and I think it's also important to be in a position to offer the right opportunities to people. I don't want to bring people on when I'm not ready, because that's sort of setting me up for failure and setting them up. And I want people to come in and have a really good experience. So, I'll definitely look to bring people on, but I think at the same time I'm actually just in the very moment I'm quite enjoying
being on your own, just worrying about you.
Yeah, it's been really nice to reacquaint myself with all facets of the business, right down to that letterbox dropping. Letterbox dropping, I think people underestimate or door knocking, because it is amazing the things you see and the people you chat to when you're out there, and it's quite lovely. Yeah. So
especially for someone like you who lives in where you work, and it's a very community oriented area. So it's good to get around the streets. Yeah.
Well, it's also beautiful, and I think when you walk, you see things that you don't see. And I learned that lesson when I lost my driver's license, that it's a real opportunity. I think people think, letterbox dropping or door knocking, it's not something I want to do. But if you look at it from a different angle, it's a real opportunity. Yeah. And it doesn't cost anything really.
Get your 30 minutes in.
Yeah, exactly. 31 if you're Matt Steinway.
You're 31, that's it. It's really taking off that 31. I see it everywhere.
Quite good.
I quickly wanted to cover real estate tech with you, because I guess as a boutique agency starting out, tech's such a big thing, and it can be such a costly expense, but it can also be, something that really helps the business. How have you looked at that as, how are you implementing that into your business?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because I am not a tech nerd. I struggle a little bit with technology. So I think part of it is having an up-to-date CRM, which is really helpful, which I'm still learning to use. It is, I think when you get savvy about using it, it's amazing, but you have to put in the time. And I think that's been a little bit challenging because I think I'm getting momentum and you have to make time to actually do the training. Because if you do that training, then it's going to save you time. But in terms of development, tech development, and I know there are a lot of people out there doing that and, you know, franchise groups and things. I think it's a bit like electric cars. I don't need to be the first one to do it. I can let somebody else do it. Everybody will be doing it soon enough. And I think at the same time, people, they want that tech advantage, but at the same time, they just want good service. And I think that things even like WhatsApp groups, which I use with all my vendors, where the team is part of, you know, that group, all the sellers and myself and Sophia, it's very valuable. You don't necessarily need to spend a lot of money on tech to give your sellers good advantage.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many free tools out there. And
exactly.
Yeah. In saying that, are there any I guess, innovations within the industry that you've been looking at, or is there anything that's caught your eye, or it's not really just old-fashioned service?
Yeah, look, I did go to Inman Connect in the US in July, and that was really interesting because there is a lot of tech stuff happening, and there were things that were of interest to me. Matterport, which I haven't used really, and I know is being used by some of the agents here. Obviously, video is something that's big, and I've been hearing from Tom Ferry to do that for about 7 years, and so, you know, eventually you do. But I think that, look, I'm not across it all. I find it a little bit overwhelming. And I guess it's a bit, again, it's about building relationships with people that whose opinion you trust on these matters. Yeah. So, it's not my, it's
to
not
be
my,
seen.
Yeah,
to be
exactly.
seen. My last question for you, Steph, was just your, you know, big audacious goals for the next year. You know, do you have any that you want to put out there in the ether that?
Well, I haven't had a European holiday or ski holiday for a couple of years now, so that's probably on the goals list.
I don't know if starting a business is the best way to achieve that goal.
I know. So, well, you said big and audacious. You got to think big. You got to think it's possible. And so I guess part of that is surrounding yourself with people that you believe you can really trust. And I think just growing, I think steady growth is what I'm after, and steady progress. I'm not aiming to be the biggest and best. I don't want to, I'm not here to, you know, poach people from other people. I just want to really build a healthy business where people are happy and feel well supported. And that's probably, I think, creating that culture, getting the systems right, which are pretty general, basic goals. But if you lay great foundations, then you can build something that's quite stable and strong for the long term. And I guess that's my goal, is to create something that has that stability, that's able to adapt and evolve, but that has the underlying fundamentals there. Yeah,
beautiful. Look, thank you so much for your time, and I've really enjoyed watching you kind of roll the brand out over the last couple of months. So congrats again.
Thank you so much.
And I'm excited to see what you can do for the next year. So
thank you.
Good luck.
Thanks so much, Jess. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Steph. That's it for this episode. Thank you so much for listening. We'd love any feedback or guest suggestions. So hit me up on Instagram. You can find me on Jess @Crib. And if you enjoyed the show, don't forget to subscribe and be sure to tell a friend.